Ladies and gentlemen, the talks between US and Iran has collapsed and the outlook doesn't look very good. So from now on, what's going to happen? Is it going to be a total disaster, a medium disaster, or actually it's not so bad? So I'll give you all the possible scenarios that can happen moving forward, and then you can make a judgment what to do for the financial market. So after the talks at Islamabad collapsed, right now there are possible outcomes and we want to review them strategically. And this is going to set the stage what will happen to the oil market and the financial market. So if you want to be a winner, so remember hit subscribe and not miss any of my videos, whether it be a long video or a short video. All this will help you get better educated to make a better financial decision. So after the talks in Islamabad collapse, right now there are possible outcomes that we're going to walk you through. Remember to hit subscribe so that you not miss any of my videos, and they will help you a lot in your assessment of the geopolitical situation that will have implications to the stock market. Now, currently right now, as it stands, it's not a total breakdown yet because the ceasefire is supposed to last for 14 days. So there's some more days to go. However, right now, there are a lot of things that are standing in between the two countries. The Straits of Hormuz, who owns it, who has the right over it, that right is now under contest between the two countries. Then the right to have nuclear capability is also under discussion. Iran clearly run preparation, but looks like the US haven't talked much about that. And Iran wants sanction relief, which I think US is prepared to give in exchange for something that Iran is not prepared to give. And of course, the question of the attacks by Israel on Lebanon and Hezbollah is something that is ongoing. We don't see that having a chill. So this is an area that potentially could continue to be a sore thumb. So there is a new variable as intelligence revealed that China is prepared to supply military equipment to Iran right now, and that could change the tide of the war. So the question really is what lies ahead? Well, we have evaluated all the possible scenarios, and I'll give you four most likely outcome in different probabilities, and you assess for yourself what is most likely to happen. Tonight in the live stream, we'll take a vote, but I'll give you my percentages first, and you can differ from me. The four scenarios are what I call ugly equilibrium. That's the first scenario. Diplomatic breakthrough. That's the second one. Then hot war 2.0. That's the third one. And then, of course, the great power rupture, meaning great powers are now involved. That's the fourth scenario. And I'll assign probabilities as I walk you through all of them. The most likely outcome is what I call the base case, scenario A. In scenario A, the ceasefire continue to hold, but yet there is no deal. So the fighting stops past the 22nd April deadline, which is the 14-day deadline, but there is no breakthrough after that. So it is an ugly equilibrium where the Straits of Hormuz continue to be slow dripped. Well, the Iranians are most likely going to allow some ships to go through, tankers to go through, no more than 20-30% of the pre-war volume. They probably allow friendly tankers to go through. That means the tankers that belong to friendly countries. And for example, China, Malaysia, and probably some other countries that are deemed friendly to them, especially Muslim countries in the Asia region. But other countries, tankers will have to pay a hefty toll, probably in the range of $1-2 million per ship. And that would probably the stage where the Straits of Hormuz will be. Now, Israel and Lebanon will continue to fight, okay, and will continue to fight, but probably fight at a reduced tempo. In this stage, the US does nothing because Donald Trump realized that, hey, some oil has gone through. I don't want to get involved. Well, we'll continue to talk. I'll continue to throw some of my warnings, some of my threats, some of my hot air, but everything just flows in a ugly equilibrium. In this scenario, China get ready to ship weapons to them, but do not ship them or do not ship them at scale. Okay, so this is a most likely outcome. In this outcome, the oil prices is likely to stay high-ish between 95, 115 kind of range. It doesn't go down, it doesn't go up by a lot, and the S&P 500 just grinds sideways with a lot of volatility, sometimes high, sometimes low, depend on how manipulative Trump gets with the stock market and oil market. But this is what I think the ugly equilibrium would be. Why ugly equilibrium will likely to be the base case? Well, that's largely because nobody wants to fight in a big way. So both sides has already now absorbed a huge amount of cost, especially Donald Trump. He took a huge effort to pull out. He doesn't want to go back again, right? And yes, the situation, the Straits of Hormuz is bad, but it doesn't stop completely right now like what it used to be. He probably have some elevation of inflation. Probably he deems that as a better outcome than to continue to fight and get more involved. For Iranians, they are also happy they get to collect money and US doesn't fight them. If you get irritated, they fire a few pot shots at the Gulf countries. So Donald Trump would say, "Oh, I got the Straits of Hormuz through," and he's capable of saying things that is not entirely true, and he can go to the China summit with Xi Jinping and portray a great success. Well, this is most likely outcome in my planning. Well, scenario B is what I think is a diplomatic breakthrough. That means they actually come to an agreement between the US and Iran, and credit will go to Pakistan for bridging both sides. Now, in this scenario, Iran will most likely allow nuclear monitoring in exchange for some kind of a partial sanction. They will have all the funds that have been locked up since 2018 being released back to them, and the Straits of Hormuz is now fully open. Maybe not fully open because there are mines in the straits, but at least allow them to go through channel. They may or may not collect a toll, but even in this scenario, they collect a toll. It's not prohibitive, probably something that's what I think reasonable. So in this scenario, China don't need to get involved, and Trump will claim historical victory. And for the oil market, just goes down in terms of the price to probably 70, 80-ish. Let's not forget that we have a lot of disruption in the Gulf countries in their production capabilities, but S&P 500 will reignite back to maybe 7,000 points or so. Now, these are very hopeful scenarios, but the frank truth is that I think this is a very low probability scenario. Why is this low probability? Is because the gap between the two countries are just too wide. The 5 sticking points we mentioned, is just where any one of them is unreasonable to another country on the other side. So I think these are irreconcilable differences to be resolved in 2 weeks. I think is fat hope. So I don't think so. So I think this probability is going to be low for this scenario. Now, scenario 3 is that war reignites. I call it the hot war 2.0. So April 22nd or even before April 22nd, the war reignites, and usually is triggered by an incident or an event. And this, I think, is a medium probability event. What can possibly trigger it? Well, it's not green light by Iran, and Iran strikes at the tanker and blows it up. And this could reignite a fire in terms of attack on both sides. US Navy, in an attempt to clear some mines or tread closer to it, which they are attempting to, they force themselves into the Straits of Hormuz, and the Iranians fire rockets or missiles or artillery at them and cause the ship to be hit. That will escalate it as well. Israel could escalate their operations in Lebanon and get Iran very irritated, and Iran will take a big hit at the US or the Gulf countries. And last, China could confirm that their weapons have arrived and being used in Iran. So all this will cause a huge spike in oil prices, possibly above 140 to $180 a barrel. S&P 500 will most likely have a drawdown to 10 by 10 to 20% within days. And in this scenario, yes, for those people who are waiting to buy big time, your day will be here. I think this is a real risk because Iran is negotiating with finger on the trigger, they already said. So Hezbollah and Israel is continuing fighting and don't seem to end. Mines are now officially declared that they are in the waters in the Straits of Hormuz, and China is going to potentially deliver some shoulder to air missiles to fight the aircraft. So all this could trigger something in a very bad way. Now, that's not the worst kind of outcome, because if China were to come in a big way, then the situation could aggravate to a worse scenario. So, US intelligence has confirmed that Chinese man pads are in Iranian hands, and this could trigger a very negative response. Donald Trump has already given warning to China: don't support Iran with weapons. Man pads are shoulder to air missiles that China has, and this could potentially shoot down quite a lot of U.S. aircraft and trigger another, save the pilot event again. So in this kind of thing, wow, U.S. will trigger a tariff war against China. Then the Xi Jinping Donald Trump summit that is supposed to happen in May will be cancelled. So this will be bad. So in this case, the crude oil could go above $150 to $200, right? That's kind of thing. So it is war with now Iran having more capability to shoot down planes. And the S&P 500 could crash 20, 25, 30. I can't tell exactly how bad it will. This will be a very bad scenario. And in this scenario, things will get very ugly on a global scale. Now, I don't know whether the US intelligence will come to pass, whether China ships the manpad in the next 1 or 2 or 3 weeks is probably one of the most important variable in this whole equation. Now, I just wondering why didn't the Iranians have shoulder to air missiles, and while they are able to shoot down some of these US planes, I don't see them being able to shoot down more. So clearly, they don't have this shoulder to air missiles. So if the manpads do get shipped, then the anti-aircraft capability of Iranians goes up tremendously, and that will change the whole landscape in the air superiority story of US. So in short, I think there are a couple of scenarios that could happen. I would believe that the base case is the most likely case, reading all the signals. And there is a slightly less than base case chance that a hot war would reignite again. So these two will probably be my lead scenarios that happen. Now, if this were to happen, then occasionally some opportunities might come for me to fire, and I'll take on my position. In the last round, there was a small hit of nearly 10%. I took some position there, but will it happen again? Let's watch. I won't know. I can't predict the stock market. So all these scenarios tells us that we need to get ready. So please remember, hit subscribe. Don't miss my analysis and timely news, breaking news release, and I'll see you in the live stream tonight. Thank you and good night.